Welcome to the Magic in the Cloud podcast, where exceptional visionaries reveal the personal journeys behind their remarkable success. This is a conversation with leaders who've transformed industries by navigating pivotal moments, making bold decisions, and cultivating extraordinary teams. We explore the turning points that define their careers, those instances where intuition met strategy and everything changed. It's an intimate look at the leadership philosophies that drive revolutionary outcomes, with cloud solutions as the quiet enabler. Here are your hosts, Joseph Griffith and Ryan Golombeski.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Magic in the Cloud. My guest today has built a top 2% global podcast with over 220 episodes, 13,000 YouTube subscribers, all focusing on real, unfiltered conversations about business, discipline, growth. He's co-founded a fast-growing 3PL, a third-party logistics company serving mid-market e-commerce brands, winning business away from the big box logistics providers through high touch, great customer service, urgency, and authentic relationships. With that, everybody, meet my guest, Dave Gulas. Dave, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Joe, we probably should have covered this beforehand. It's Gulas.
It's Gulas. As soon as I was about to say it, I got a 50-50 shot. So welcome to the show, Dave.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I was super intrigued. I mean, there were a bunch of things to talk about, but two things really struck me. One is you found a way to build a top 2% ranked podcast, and also you're just kicking butt with some really secret sauce to your 3PL and what I understand to be a really commoditized space. So when you strip it all back, like, what do you see as the secret sauce for those two things? Like, what actually makes it all work?
Okay, well, some similarities and differences between the two. So we'll talk about the podcast first. I mean, really with the podcast, it's just consistency. It's just the discipline and the consistency to continually record and publish every week. And just the natural evolution that you go through as a podcaster, where you keep getting better as you go along, and you start to develop that unconscious competence once you put so many reps in, where you get a certain level of, expertise, and you start saying, well, what if I did this better? What I did this better? What if I changed this? What if I improved that? And you just start always looking for ways to improve. But that only comes from consistently taking the action, getting the reps in, and doing it even when you don't feel like it. And that's been the story of the podcast. And then with the 3PL, kind of a different thing. But yeah, we've had this company 3 years, and we started it because we saw a complacency in the marketplace where, brands we knew were getting very poor service from big box 3PLs to where their orders weren't shipping, they weren't getting responses on time. It's just terrible customer experience. And we were in the pharmaceutical industry, and we realized, our brand of customer service just even survive in the market of the pharmaceutical secondary market of pharmaceuticals. You have to have high touch customer service. You have to solve problems on the fly. You have to respond quick. You have to take care of your customers. It's just automatic. So when we saw this and we were looking for another vertical to get into, we said, our brand of customer service would be perfect for this industry because there's so much complacency. We thought we could really carve out a nice niche and do well. So we jumped in and did it. And yeah, it's been going very well 3 years in. And our assumptions were certainly right. Almost every day, it seems, I talk to a 3PL or a brand rather that's just not happy with their 3PL because, for those same reasons.
Nice to hear that two things that we all hope we grow up with, right? Which is work hard, do scalable, repeatable things in practice. And then, lead with generosity, kindness, and high-touch service are the cornerstones for the success. Not necessarily the smartest guy, the fastest guy, the most talented guy. Not to say they're not talented, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure I'm not the smartest, fastest, or most talented guy, but yeah, I'm definitely willing to get up every day and put in the work. And the more you do that, you certainly learn a lot. You notice patterns, and you get better at what you do. So I think that's certainly part of it.
Yeah. Another question on the podcast and how you went from 0 to top 2% in your space. I think I heard you say, right, 220, we talked about more than 220 episodes. Where do you think that, where were the one or two or three inflection points where you knew, hey, this thing's working?
Well, so it's interesting. When I started the podcast, I knew nothing about podcasting. No, I never even considered it till I had the idea. I just had the idea one day because I was out there networking a lot. I was having a challenging time in the very beginning, just figuring out how to grow this company. And I always found the most valuable source of learning I had was conversations with other entrepreneurs. And one day the idea just hit me. It's like, hey, if you started a podcast, you could put these conversations out. The audience could get the value from it. The guests would get exposure. It would help you. It's like truly a win-win. And so I had I still have this boutique marketing firm that's with us. And I said, hey, I had this idea. What do you think? And they said, hey, it's a great idea. We can get started quick. And I just knew I had to do it. So from when I had the idea to publishing our first episode was less than 30 days. And I mean, you know this from being in the space, that's fast, to figure out how you're going to do it, to get the name, to get the marketing. And then, I put out a teaser on LinkedIn. Hey, I'm starting a podcast. What do you think? Would anyone even listen? And I got all this response back. People wanted to be guests, and everything just lined up. The name came together right away, and we put it out. And then even that first episode, right? Like I prepared so hard for it. I really spent a lot of time. I was like super nervous, super scared, and then I did it. And even though it was my very first one, I still feel like that was one of my best interviews. And it just, just in terms of the conversation, right? Not audio quality. I didn't even have equipment back then, but everything just went well. It felt right. And I was like, wow, I really think I'm onto something here. And I just kept doing it and started off once per week. And eventually I got to have so many episodes that we had to literally put it out twice per week. And that's really where we are now, is putting out 2 episodes per week. And it's done very well, helped the business, helped me. It's been a powerful networking tool. So, I mean, nothing but good things to say about that idea to start a podcast.
Preparedness is something that I think my guests would appreciate. I know a lot of them come here because they're looking for skills that they can sharpen, skills that they can work on that are not specialty things. And, just honing them, that thread of just you saying, hey, you got to hone it. And not only do you get better at the skill, but you also mentioned your confidence, right? You said you were really nervous. You turned that nervousness into preparedness. And I would guess now that you're over 200, I'm sure you still get a little bit nervous, right? As you get ready for the next podcast, but just enough to keep you on your toes. And now you're able to lean in even better, albeit that you're saying the first one was one of the best ones you ever had.
Yeah, it was actually it was a friend of mine too that said, hey, I'll be on your podcast, so that probably
doesn't hurt to have a friendly. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was just super open. He had a great story. I mean, everything about it just worked. But now it's just crazy too, because I get like, here's the other thing too, that maybe people won't realize, and I'm sure you can certainly appreciate, like in the very beginning, before I even had a podcast, I was thinking, okay, I've got to get guests, right? And I've been in sales my whole life, so I have no problem doing cold outreach. I mean, I remember I was at a trade show and I went booth to booth, just obviously for our 3PL, but then I would say, hey, by the way, I'm starting a podcast. Would you like, and it's like, it was probably 5% for a long time, like acceptance rate. So of everyone I asked, so for every guest I got, I had to ask 20 people to put it in perspective. And you think about what that, like, sometimes I look back as like, how did I even keep going when you look at kind of what it was like in the beginning? And now I have a backlog, I have a waiting list, I have people constantly asking to be on it. I turn people down. I have like an application process. It's like, I'm not hurting for guests at all. But in the beginning, it was like, it's crazy what I had to do to even get people to come onto my show. Yeah.
And, you get that 5%, right? And I always say you get 5% to say yes, and you have the other qualification, which is it going to be any good? So you have to have people who want to do it, and, will it be any good? Some people want to try, but they also need to hone their skills. So that's really tough. You kept up with persistence. You got better. And now you've got people, like you said, flocking to want to come be on your show, which is great. You have a philosophy called Ready, Fire, Aim in real life. Tell my guests a little bit more about Ready, Fire, Aim.
Yeah, I certainly didn't coin that phrase. I heard it somewhere along the way, but it certainly fits my approach perfectly. And really, it's just because, I mean, what I've noticed, and I can even, see this in myself, like the biggest obstacle to getting anything done is just getting started and taking that first initial action. Right. And so often, right, you'll have these ideas, you'll have things you want to do, but for whatever reason, if you don't get past that inertia to where you get into movement on that idea, oftentimes if you wait too long, your mind will start talking you out of it, and this will happen, that'll happen, and nothing will get done. So it's just really just taking action even before you're ready, and knowing that even if you take the wrong action, you can course correct along the way, and you can, or if you make a mistake, you can fix it. But just not letting lack of action be the reason. So it's really just getting into motion on whatever it is you're doing, and as soon as possible, and figuring out all the details later. Not saying that planning isn't important or being strategic, but just like I see so many people, and I've talked to many of them, that haven't gotten done what they wanted to. And a big reason is because they just haven't taken that first step. So I always want to do whatever I can to take the first step as quick as possible and start to figure it out as I'm already in motion.
Yeah. And, when I was younger, I was raised by my mentors you have to know everything. You can't make mistakes. They can't find out that you don't know what you're talking about, or you're sunk. And the very first time that I ever got in trouble, fibbing my way through things, I kept saying to myself, I only did one thing wrong, and that was fib to this guy. Basically, I lied. I pretended I knew something I didn't know. And the very next call, I just raised my hand and said, I have no clue what you're talking about. And what was amazing is my customers were more than happy to help me understand the issues, understand the problems, understand the things they were looking at, articulate a different way what they were looking for. So now you find out, like I tell people all the time, you have an idea with a client, come up with 2 crazier ideas and throw all 3 crazy ideas at them. It doesn't matter if they think all 3 are nuts, right? It stimulates them that you're actually thinking about their problems. And oftentimes they'll come back and say, I took this part of your idea number 1 and this part of idea number 3, which, by the way, is still crazy. But what if you put these together and did this? And you're like, yeah, that would work. And I think people think that a lot of people think they still have to be right all the time. And I tell you, to be honest with you, dude, I got a lot more success throwing out crazy ideas and being wrong than actually doing the research and being right. That's how I see it.
Yeah. And listen, right? Like you said, we're all just people, right? So it's not about trying to fake like you know everything. I certainly don't know everything. Everything. I get things wrong all the time. But I mean, people see in your character and your actions, like, are you willing to help? Are you actually going to take action and do something to solve a problem? And if you don't have the answer, that's fine. But will you go get the answer? I mean, oftentimes that's so much more valuable. Certainly in my business, I don't know everything, but I'll find the answer. And I have people that have the answers. And if not, I'll go find it somewhere else. So like you said, nothing wrong with it, admitting you don't know, but then what do you do after that?
Yeah, I'd like to explore the 3PL market a little bit more. Earlier in the conversation about how you started to penetrate that, tell me a little bit more about what that sweet spot looks like what are ideal clients for you? And then tell me a little bit more about winning over those customers who, from a previous experience, are disappointed. I know in my world, we call them red accounts, companies that are ready to say, hey, we're done with using this technology. We're just going to cancel our contract. And I'm brought in to kind of salvage it. I call that a red account. But what's your sweet spot, and how do you go about that first 30, 60 days of getting the customer to move in the right direction?
Yeah, well, so with us too, we cater to e-commerce brands. So typically ones that are shipping between 1,000 and 10,000 orders a month is our sweet spot. And most of the time, those brands are already with a 3PL, right? So, and even statistically, about 60% of the market is unhappy with their 3PL if you look at the current stats out there. So, I mean, they're everywhere. And There's a lot of variables that depend on, who they're going to select in terms of the product they ship. There's different niches, different 3PLs that specialize in different niches. We're more like smaller, high volume e-commerce, direct to consumer e-commerce items. Location sometimes can be a big factor. So we're based in Kentucky, which is an excellent central location where you can get to most of the country within 2 days ground, which is very appealing to like a mid-market e-commerce company. So that's really the niche where we focus. But we always start by having a discovery call and just understanding specifically what does the business look like, because everyone's different. And how many orders a month are they shipping? How many SKUs do they have? What channels are they selling on? What's important to them? What does the business look like? What needs to happen? What are they expecting from a fulfillment partner? Software integrations. What software do they use? We go through all those type of things, but really just want to understand with them what they're looking for and how, if we could potentially be a fit. So it's just really a real open conversation where we're both asking a lot of questions, and they want to know all about us. And, are they going to have a dedicated account rep, and what are our SLAs, and, how soon are their orders going to ship? And then not if something goes wrong, but when something goes wrong, what happens? Because things go wrong all the time, and for a variety of reasons. And sometimes it's nothing that you can even control. I mean, we had a container just delayed a couple of days because of the weather, and what do you do, right? That's just what happens. So it's just understanding how we operate, how we communicate with them, what we're responsible for, what they're responsible for, and just having an open conversation. And then if it gets to that, we get into pricing and go from there. And usually everyone we talk to, we're not the only 3PL that they're talking to. They're usually evaluating several options at a time. But I mean, that's how the process goes. And as we get more serious, maybe they'll want to come to a site visit. Numerous companies have done that. They'll certainly want references, want to talk to other customers on their own and ask questions. So anytime it's gotten to that point, we typically have closed the deal, right? So, but again, too, right, that process, it's sometimes too, just depending on the account and what's going on, that could be 1 month, which is really quick. It could be, several months, 6 months. I've had deals close as quick as 1 week. I've had deals closed within 2 years, literally, where we've been talking to someone ongoing and then they're finally ready to make a move. So you just never know, but that's kind of typically what the process looks like.
Did you ever hear I think it's called the say-do quotient? So the say-do ratio, right? What you say you're going to do versus what you actually do. Something like that, right? Do what you're going to say. It'd be interesting to measure that, and say, hey, customer, if I told you I was going to do 10 things and I did 9 out of 10, is that a good score? And I do think that over that 2 weeks or those 2 years, I do think that the best customers are looking for that. Like, come on, these guys are that high touch and they're that responsive. I think they're looking to validate that because a lot of people can tell that story. Not a lot of people can prove that story.
Yeah. And for us too, the best part about it is where we get, we get the compliments from the customer in terms of, wow, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Appreciate everything you do for us. Moving to your company was the best decision I ever made. When we hear those things, that's what makes it all worthwhile, right? Because that's really what we aim to do. Because, like you mentioned earlier, right, the industry has been commoditized, to a certain extent. That's how a lot of people view it, as just like, an expense, a necessary expense is having their fulfillment partner. But in reality, we are an extension of their business. So if we mess up, that can wreak havoc on their business. That can literally make or break an e-commerce brand's business. So, we take that very seriously, and that's kind of one of the things that we talk about. It's not a commodity, right? It's not just something you shop on price. You want to get to know who you're getting in business with very, very well and make sure it's the right decision, because, again, if they can literally make or break your business, your customer relationships, your livelihood. If they're not the right fit, you don't want to find out after the fact.
Yeah, man, you're a true example of I forget the old book. I think it was called Raving Fans. with the guy that wrote the 1 Minute Manager, and numerous examples of commodities like gas stations and supermarkets and things like that, and how you can turn them into value add services just by creating raving fans, right? People are super excited to come to you. People are super excited to brag about you guys. So thanks for sharing that, how that high touch is translated into those testimonials from your clients, which then you use to leverage more business. Here's a tough one, right? So now you're growing and you're nimble and you're smaller. You're not small. You're just smaller than the big boys, but you're growing. So what do you have on a little piece of paper somewhere, hidden somewhere, saying, hey, when I start to get bigger as a leader, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things I'm going to stay close to make sure I don't become one of those larger folks with 60% of my customers being unhappy?
Yeah, well, it's tough, right? Like you said, that as the business grows, there's so many moving parts, and I'm not involved in everything, right? So, I mean, for me and for us right now, and I mean, certainly for the foreseeable future, even as the team has grown, right, we've had to bring on more kind of higher level talent. It's just staying close to the key people and checking in every day. Like, we have a huddle every single day about what are the top priorities, what are going on. We go down the list. And then, this is like our busiest season of the year right before Christmas. So sometimes it's just madness with everything going on, right? Where, everyone's just really busy, but it's really just staying tapped into exactly what's going on with customers. I have access to our support box where I can always check in and look at what's going on at any given time. But I mean, just staying in touch with the key managers and understanding what the customers are dealing with and what needs to be done at any given time. And just again, the real North Star too is, and sometimes too, it helps where if someone's dealing with a situation or dealing with multiple priorities, or we have to figure out how to get a lot done in a short amount of time, sometimes it helps where I can just look at the situation and say, what about this? What about this? What if we do this? How can we do this? Right. And then obviously too, staying in touch with the customer and letting them know what's happening is paramount. So I guess it's just always staying, I guess, tapped into what's going on, even as things get busier and there's a lot more going on.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. I mean, I know when you and I were younger, we used to always say, I'm never going to be like those older leaders and be disconnected from what goes on in the ground and with the customers. I think it's easier to say than to continue doing. But that's what you're saying, right? Your little cheat sheet is saying, look, don't lose connection to the folks in the field and don't lose connection to the clients.
Yeah, and I check in even, ideally, we don't want to have to hear from the customers a whole lot, right? Because we want
like the umpire in sports.
Yeah.
If you don't notice, I mean, he's doing a great job.
Yeah. But I mean, I'll deliberately check in, right? And, just see how people are doing, particularly if I haven't heard from, because again, I'm still I enroll every single account, right? So often, I'm very close to them through the whole sales process. And then once they, come out on board, they're with our team, and I'm not so much involved with them anymore. So I like to check in, especially if it's been a while, just see how people are doing. I mean, I can see the numbers with their, how their business is performing, but I always like to just have those conversations because it all started with my conversation with them.
That's great. Hey, final question on the business. What do you see in the next 3-5 years in the logistics, space?
Well, so I think I'm very bullish on just the e-commerce industry in general, where you look at the numbers, you look at how the world is changing, you look at how things are evolving. I think there's so much room for growth. And then you look at the rise of AI and how that's transformed life and all the things you can do. And then, of course, commerce is being integrated into that. So people are going to be able to shop easily through LLMs, and then along with the social shopping as well, which is really another industry that's evolved. So, I mean, all those things just bode well for a company like us. So I see a lot of growth in the e-commerce space in the coming years, and we want to just keep doing our part and continue to grow with the companies that are with us, continue to expand as it makes sense. So that's our plan. But I certainly see a lot of good times ahead for this industry in general.
I appreciate you sharing that. My audience likes to hear about my guest's background and upbringing. And I know when we first started talking, one of the things that was really shining through, one of the things you're proud of, is that you're in the best shape of your life at a young 46. And it really did shine through on the call. Tell the audience a little bit about what that turning point was, where you said, hey, my health and my discipline are not negotiable, and they have to be at the forefront now moving forward.
Well, I mean, I think I'm sure you can attest to this. As you get older, you realize you can't get away with maybe the lifestyle choices that you made in your younger days, right? You can't, if you really want to be, lean and strong and feel good and mentally clear, you have to prioritize sleep, right? You have to prioritize exercise and movement. You have to eat a clean diet. You know what I mean? Eat a clean diet, right? So, as I got late 30s and approaching 40, I mean, that became evident. And there was a period of time where I was overweight and I didn't like it, right? So at some point you realize that what's more important than your health. And I just continue to kind of dial in that process. And it's, for me, at least, the better I do with it, the more I want to do better, right? So I've been doing it so long, it just becomes automatic that I'm always checked into how I'm sleeping. I always start my day with movement. I always stay well hydrated. I've been meditating since the pandemic, and that's a non-negotiable too for me, even though it changes, right? But I mean, it's not like I'm spending a half hour all the time, but certainly spending time to get quiet and connect and get centered and do the right breath work is important. And even lately too, I've been doing yoga, which has been
yoga rocks, dude. When I've talked to you remind me top of mind. Yoga is, boy, man, that's really, really powerful.
Because mobility, right? I'm as flexible as I've ever been, which is crazy. But just the to be able to move and move your joints through the right ranges of motion, and to get just to do all those poses and to sweat, and all that's like so good for you. And I'll be doing that. I don't, for as long as I don't see myself stopping at all.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me where you grew up, and tell me a little bit about your family, your upbringing as a kid.
So I grew up in a little town called East Point, just outside Detroit, Michigan. And just mom, dad, and a brother. So just kind of working class family. So, was working outside the home from a very early age, like 13, just working in restaurants. And I think even before that, I had a paper route. So I've always just naturally wanted to get out there and work. And after high school, I went to U of M Dearborn for a couple of years. And then, just college wasn't for me. And then eventually, I'd always been in sales as a teenager too, doing telemarketing type jobs. And I got like my first real sales job, I think, when I was 21. And once I kind of saw the opportunity to where your results can multiply your income, I've always been a student of sales and personal development and how can I improve that. And then I got into the pharmaceutical industry thereafter. I was there for almost 20 years. Lifelong salesperson as an adult. And that's always kind of been my knack and what I've enjoyed, what I've been good at. And and then now I get to sell something I helped to create. So, what could be better?
Yeah, for sure. And who, whether it be a family member or somebody in work, what one or two people come to mind as mentors who guided you on this path?
Yeah. So when I was 21 and I got a sales job at it's a company, they're not even around anymore. The company called Direct Buy. So this is kind of pre-Amazon, where they were like a home, like a home goods purchasing club type of thing. But anyways, the owner there basically introduced me to personal development, right? So he was like, I remember it was required reading for the first week at that company to read The Magic of Thinking Big. by David Schwartz. So we literally read, we had our homework reading, we discussed the book every day. And that was how he started all his new sales reps. And remember, he had this huge library in his office with all these books and tapes from like Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Les Brown, all those old school guys.
Yeah.
And I would literally borrow like the tape sets and listen to them. But I mean, he really got me into just studying that type of material and realizing how important it is what you put into your mind and what you read and what you focus on and what you pay attention to and what habits you build. So that was really a big turning point in my life. Is just having a mentor like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And hopefully you've had a chance to thank him for that impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I try and go back every couple of years to the folks that made a difference, pick up the phone. And some of them are getting a little older now. So I want to pick up the phone maybe a little more often and just tell them thank you. The guy that got me into what I'm doing, that was 40 some years ago. I rented him a car and he's like, how much sales experience do you have? I'm like, a ton. And I chased him for 9 months and he gave me this offer and I'm like, what a joke. I'll get a real job someday. And now I call him, his name is Jay Perlberg. I call him like every other year going, yo, dude, he's like 85 now. Thanks for renting a car from me. If it wouldn't have been for his advice and his guidance, who knows?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that you get to do that, man. Hey, so now you're looking back, and you're looking back at maybe your 20, 25-year-old self. Any advice for that young man that you might repeat or do differently?
Yeah, like I think it probably was 25, 30, but I would just say, and not like I didn't, but now it's like you notice it so much more. It was just, savor the moments you have with your kids, right? Because I mean, I have a house full of teenagers now, and listen, this time it's just a different time, right? And we certainly connect on a different level, and we have some real conversations now. But it's just amazing, how quick they grow. I have 6 kids, but
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. It's amazing, and it's again, right. Once those days are gone, they don't come back, and it's just a different time. So I see, I always tell people if I interact with them too that have young children, hey, just enjoy these days because it goes quick.
Yeah, you just reminded me of. I gave a talk at a school, a bunch of seniors, and it was actually called "Every Conversation Matters." But some person asked me about productivity. What have you learned in these last few years? And I just took some time and learned that a day is really long. And an hour is really long, and a minute is really long. But when you're in your 20s, 30s, when you first started having those kids, you're not even close. You're not related to a minute or an hour at all, right? And like 3 minutes, man, to read a book with your daughter or with your son, that's like huge. And it's just not that much time you can do it. But easier said than done when you're in that age. And with 6 kids, I mean, you're playing zone defense pretty much.
Yeah, and people always told me that too. And when I'd hear that, I'd be like, oh, okay. But it like at the time, you think, well, man, they're 4 years old. I mean, how quick's it gonna go, right? But then you realize it now too. Is like, man, it goes quick.
It goes quick, and I don't think I feel oftentimes it's old school. It sounds cliche when people are having their first. And I give my advice on that. But I'll never forget, the number of words read before the age of 12, it directly correlates to academic performance. So I'd be reading. And then I could swear I was going to read till she was 30. And I just remembered like somewhere like 11 or 12. I'm like, when did I stop reading the books? And I turned the corner up the stairs. My daughter was about 13. Her name's Jamie. And I said, Jamie, read the books. She went, ooh, no. I'm like, wait a second, man. Like, how many hours and minutes did we spend together from that 0 to, I don't know, 10, 11? And boom, just like that, gone. It was so valuable. 5 minutes driving to school to drop her off in the morning. Come on, man. That 5 minutes rocks. So
yeah.
Great advice to the younger self and to those that, when they're having their first child or 2 or 6, to make sure you really appreciate that time with them. This has been awesome, man. Tell me, tell the audience how they can contact you, where they can find you, websites, those kind of things. How can
Yeah.
they get in touch?
Yeah, for sure. So LinkedIn's a great option. I'm on LinkedIn, Dave Gulas, Gulas. If you want to find out more about our 3PL, how we could potentially help you if you have a mid-market e-commerce brand, that's easydc3pl.com, or just Google easydc3pl. You'll see all kinds of stuff about us. And then if you want to hear some really cool stories about entrepreneurship and what it's really like, you can check out the Beyond Fulfillment podcast, and that's on YouTube and everywhere else podcasts are heard.
That's awesome, man. I would encourage folks to track you down. So, Dave, thank you so much for your time today. I know my listeners, they're going to love this, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Really appreciate it.
And this brings us to the end of another episode. I'll see you on the next one.
Magic in the Cloud podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.